Testing 1, 2, 3. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. My name is Mike. It is the 23rd of April, I believe. It is 11 a.m. Central European, 10 a.m. in the UK, and we have a packed show. If you look down the right-hand side, there is an awful lot to go through. In fact, so much so, we had to take some things out because it wouldn't fit on the right-hand side. Now, today's stream is not going to be for everybody because the first part of the show, we're going to look at world reserve currencies, what they are, why Bitcoin could become one, why America is in trouble, why BRICS is making a move. We're going to go through all of that from the point of view of why you need to be holding Bitcoin, not from the point of view of global politics or anything like that, simply from the point of view of why Bitcoin is so important and why Bitcoin helps you to avoid debasement, which we've covered a lot on this channel before. So it could be a heavy show. I'm going to try and make it as light as possible. We still have the markets and the X-Files. We're going to look at Solana again. We're going to look at the marketplace. People are picking Solana for the bull run. We're going to look at SafeMoon. Is he guilty? Is he innocent? We're going to look at Cosmos. Tariq has asked very politely if we can go over Cosmos, have a look at it, and also look at the price action. Then we're going to bring back the portfolio. We haven't looked at it probably for about 2 months. We're going to update you on our $15,000 to $1 million portfolio. If you don't, I've never seen that before, make sure to stay for that. And then final thoughts, if we have any time, we will get into that. But we do not have a great deal of time today. We are busy. A few good mornings to Hidden Agendas. Kishan is here. Good morning to Bullish. I think Bullish Bull is in chat. Always good to have a bull in chat, I find. Far better than having a bear, really. So let's start with the markets. We had some good price action, and then we had a little bit of a retracement not too long ago. Bitcoin is coming in at 66.3. It's up 0.5% on the last 24 hours. Ethereum is down a touch, but still 31.6. Markets in general down 0.1%, nothing really. And volume is still significantly lower than I would expect. It's still under 100 billion at 65 billion. Not an awful lot going on. Bitcoin dominance has come down a touch, 53.7. And ETH dominance is still under 16%, so not really a lot to talk about there. Let's have a look at the gainers and losers. Remember, I'm going to try and do all of this in 1 hour. Difficult to do, but we're going to try. So, Akash network is up 46%. Incredible. Casper is up 8.8, Core 8.5, Stacks 8.5, Immutable X. A good project there. I was trying to buy Immutable X at $1.50-ish. It never came back down to that level. That's going to be a big coin in the bull run, I feel, especially with all of the Web3 games that are starting to come out and the adoption of Web3 gaming. So Immutable X will be a good one. Pepe is having a good run. Gnosis, not seen that for an age. Pendle is also up just a touch, and Near Protocol. So a good green day. I'm not expecting to see too many losers. Toncoin, again, Pretender to the Throne, not a fan of Toncoin. Don't think it's a $20 billion project. That is down. Wormhole is down a touch. Athena is down 5%, and Beam is down 5%. Not many losers today, and a fair old number of winners. Very quickly then, if you are new here, we stream every day at 11 o'clock, Monday to Saturday. We are going to stream, we're going to try and stream 7 days a week for the next couple of weeks, Monday to Sunday. We're going to try and stream at 11 o'clock, maybe 10 o'clock over the weekend. We don't know yet. And then, of course, Monday and Wednesday nights, Brogan does his live trading where he goes through the charts. You can watch along, ask him for some projects, and he will look them up and give you his opinion on where he thinks the price action will go. Let's move on very quickly. We do not have a great deal of time. So this happened last night. 2 SEC lawyers resigned after a federal judge sanctioned and sharply rebuked the Wall Street regulator for gross abuse of power in a crypto case. So Michael Welsh and Joseph Watkins stepped down this month after an SEC official told them that they would be terminated if they stayed. Now, that's a very strong word. According to people familiar with the matter, the pair were leading attorneys on a case against Digital Licensing Inc., a crypto platform known as Debtbox. Well, there we go. It just goes to show you that even the SEC hold a few dodgy apples. Good morning, Tariq. Bottom right-hand corner, you will see we're going to be having a look at Cosmos. It's very difficult to cover Cosmos in 10 minutes. I will let you know that. It's not an easy project to do. It's a huge project. But I will have a look at it, and I do think it's wholly undervalued. So then, HODL 15 Capital, first day after the halving of trading. And it just goes through the number of net positive days for BlackRock. It goes through the size of them. I mean, just look. This didn't exist 3 months ago. It's now a $1.12 billion inflow. Let's move on. I'm actually very conscious of time, so I'm trying not to spend too long on this element of the show. We're doing okay. We are doing okay. So IT Tech has published a very nice list of what is happening this week, especially in crypto. So a couple of things that I want to pick out of here. Parcel trading campaign. Parcel was a big project that launched, or token dropped maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. A token is doing quite well. That's very good. Manta snapshot is happening on April the 24th as well. 25th, Beam is launching Forgotten Playland. Remember the Beam tokens? We've covered that. I think we even gave Beam tokens away on one of our streams. That's launching one of its projects April the 25th. Last day of the Merlin chain launch pool. And the deadline to mint Zorb NFTs by Zora Base. So there's an awful lot going on in crypto. April the 28th as well. That's the Token Genesis event of IO.net. That is potentially a project that I'm going to be doing a review of. So there's some serious events happening this week. And a big thanks to IT Tech for compiling it into a lovely, nice list. If you don't know what half of these are, that's not a problem. Many of these things are new names to people. They're new events. Some of these I haven't heard of myself, but on the whole, it just shows you, whatever the price action, crypto is still a busy industry. Things go on week upon week, irrespective of the price, because everybody is constantly building. Now, we mentioned this yesterday, I think. High transaction fees associated with Bitcoin have been a hot topic since the Friday halving. I do not know why it is called a successful Friday halving. It's just a halving. It's not proof of stake. It's not a software update. It's just the halving. But much of this surge appears to be related to the Runes protocol debut, which we covered yesterday. Remember, when Ordinals did this, was it middle of last year, beginning of last year? Bitcoin is not meant to be a transactional blockchain. It's not meant to compete with the likes of Matic or even Solana. Solana is obviously head and shoulders with everybody else. It's not meant to compete. It's meant to be a store of value, and it's meant to be a hedge against inflation and protection against debasement of the currency. So it's not meant to cope with a fad or a meme coin movement or etchings or whatever you want to call them. It's not built to do that. And when you apply an awful lot of transactions to Bitcoin, the price goes through the roof. And you're seeing that with these spikes up here. I don't know how well you can see that, but the price has spiked considerably. It's now $100 a transaction. It could continue to go up $200 or $300 a transaction. But this isn't due to the halving. Let's just make that clear. This is due to Runes protocol. Now, maybe there was collusion. Maybe the miners realized that they were going to receive half the revenue that the Are we back? Are we back? Okay, sorry about that. We appear to be lagging. No idea why. But we're back, so we shall carry on. So basically, I don't know whether there was collusion with Runes and the miners, or whether it was just a good time to do that at the halving. Who knows? But this Runes protocol stunt feat project will die down over time. We don't need to worry about that anymore. Now, we're going to move on to the main part of the show. And this is something which you'll hear a lot of Americans talking about. Panic about the US dollar being the world reserve currency. And the issue really is that currencies only last for 100 years or so, 80 to 120 years, modern day currencies that is. We had the pound, before that we had the Dutch, whatever the Dutch florin was it. Currencies don't last forever. They end up being debased, they end up running through all kinds of inflation woes. Also, you have changes in political power. So the British Empire had the pound, the Dutch ruled the waves for years, they had the florin. America's had it pretty much since, I would say, World War One. Now, we are approaching, the end of the first 100 years of the dollar, and people are talking about, is the dollar going to get replaced? So what is the world reserve currency? We're going to get into that in a minute, but let's go through this article first and try and be as light-hearted or light as possible about it. Now, this is very hard for you to read, so I'm going to make it as big as possible. So BRICS, if you've never heard of BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China. We've also got South Africa, Saudi Arabia are in the act. There's Uruguay coming on board. So BRICS is the equivalent of maybe the IMF and the G7 in the Western world. Even though G7 has some of the same people, it's kind of the same thing. It's a collective of countries. Why they have decided to push forward with the BRICS, we're going to get onto in a minute. But let's just go through this. So there is a strategy, they believe, to de-dollarize the world markets. And it's not to do with promoting local currencies. That's not why they're doing this. Russia and China have agreed that the yuan or the yen, I can never pronounce the Chinese currency, that's going to be their reserve currency. Even Russia has agreed to this. So the yen or the yuan is going to be the reserve currency of the BRICS nations. And that's key to what's going on at the minute. So of the past year, the expanded alliance has not only welcomed new members, but has also deepened its commitment to using local currencies in unilateral trade agreements. Russia's voice has been particularly prominent, describing the initiative as a serious channel to replace fiat currencies in international transactions. This move is underpinned by the bloc's dedication to developing central bank digital currencies, while they intend to use as a direct substitute for fiat money. So, of course, America stood up to this and said this is a terrible idea. What do we do from here? Now, again, Russia and China are the ones pushing this through. Venezuela as well, which we're going to get onto. So what they're trying to create is this BRICS bridge, where all of the countries within that bloc use not only cryptocurrency, but use a currency which is not and no longer the US dollar. The absence of this US dollar in these dealings could raise concerns among global traders and nations currently integrated deeply with the dollar-based financial system. The 10 BRICS nations appear resolute. In addition to these financial maneuvers, the original 5-nation group of BRICS has been working diligently on a blockchain and digital tech-based payment system. Now, this is where it becomes important to understand what they're trying to do. We know what's going on in Eastern Europe, and we know what Europe and America's first task was to try and bring an end to the conflict, and that was, of course, sanctions against Russia. Now, I'm not going to get political in here, that's not my job. I'm here to talk about crypto. But the sanctions are based on the Western financial system. China and America are the two biggest powerhouses. And there's a political power move going on at the minute between China and America. China is picking up all of these countries around the world and giving them development aid and bringing them on board and bringing them into the Chinese fold, if you like. Russia is being penalized by the West financially by blocking them from using things like the back system, that they can't pay for things. So the West and America have kind of forced an acceleration in this. And that's why BRICS is pushing forward with blockchain technology. Especially, they've looked at having their own CBDCs, they've looked at Bitcoin, they've looked at creating a brand new currency. They've looked at all of these things because at the minute, their financial system is censorable. It can be swayed by political movements. Their transactions can be blocked. So what are they going to do to get around all of these blocks? They are going to introduce their own payment ramps and their own payment system. And if they base it on the blockchain, or if they base it on Bitcoin, for example, Bitcoin transactions between China and Russia or India or any other country within BRICS, nobody in the world can stop that transaction. Now, the other thing to understand is the US dollar is backed by, at the minute, political and military might. It used to be backed by economic might as well, but China took over that when they moved into an export nation. They kind of started to reduce that effect of America on the world. America doesn't export what it used to export. So the issue really now is, what happens if the dollar, which is the petrodollar as well, what happens if the dollar is stopped being used for oil transactions? Look at the countries that are in BRICS. They produce somewhere in the region of 60%, 70% of all oil in the world goes through the petrodollar. This is going to remove that transaction. So the dollar will no longer be used for oil transactions. So Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, Russia, China, India will no longer pay for oil or sell oil in dollars. And that single act will remove or reduce greatly the US dollar. And Bitcoin is part and parcel of how these countries can also store value in their home currencies. We're going to get onto that in a second. So the issue here is that America has forced the hand of BRICS. Everybody is told one narrative, depending on where you are in the world. That you're told a narrative about Russia and China and America. You're told the narrative of wherever you live. The cold hard fact is that the world reserve currency, the American dollar, has been on the slide for a lot longer than Joe Biden has been in power. And this is not something that's happened in the last month. This is something, if I go down to here to show you. So here we go. So if you look back to 2015, which I don't know if you can see, let's make it a bit smaller. Let's see if I can bring this up in a nice way. There we go. So this is the exchange reserves. So what you do, a world reserve currency, you hold your reserves in currency which you think doesn't have political instability. You want safe havens for your money. And that would be the dollar, it would be the Swiss franc, it would be the pound, it would be the euro. And if you look on your right hand side, you will see 2015, the US dollar accounted for 65.7% of reserves. And today it is 58.4%. So in 10 years, it's fallen by 10%. So 1% a year. The euro hasn't changed. The yen has improved slightly. The pound hasn't changed. Chinese currency, which wasn't being held in reserve in 2015, is now 2.3% of foreign exchange reserves. That is showing you the direction of what is happening to the dollar and what is going to happen to China. China, and this is the thing, you'll hear these people on YouTube or whatever, and they'll say to you, the dollar is never going to be replaced. The dollar is the strongest currency in the world. At this moment in time, it is. But it's lost 10% of its status, if you like, over the last 10 years, 1% a year. It doesn't take another 10 years for this to go down to 48%, because once it's removed as the petrodollar, that's going to take a huge chunk out of the reason why the dollar is kept as the world reserve currency. So the long and short of it is, how do they get out of this situation? First thing they need to do is they need to change their political alignment. They have a habit of abandoning countries. They have a habit of paying their way through problems, and it's never going to work long term because people will see through it. There needs to be a political change, and I'm not going to go political. I'm going to try not to go political, but Bitcoin is going to be, I think, within the next 5 or 10 years, a item on the left-hand side of this chart. Now, it might not be 10%, 3%. It might be 1 or 2% of the foreign exchange reserves will start to be held in Bitcoin over the next 10 years, because it is not swayed by any political movement. If you're on the side of America, then you don't want China to take over the role of the world reserve currency. If you're in the UK, you don't really want America, you don't really want China to be the world reserve currency, because political stability comes from having a sensible government, a government that doesn't make rash decisions. America is making a lot of rash decisions, and that causes people to lose faith in them. Bitcoin does not answer to anybody. It doesn't answer to the dollar and America. It doesn't answer to China and the yen. It doesn't answer to anybody. And that's why I think that the dollar is going to struggle longer term. Now, the next point of this, which I'm getting to, is that Switzerland has suggested, or Swiss Bitcoin, should I say, has suggested that Bitcoin be included in national bank reserves. So we've just shown you the rough list of currencies held by in reserves. The dollar's 58%. Switzerland is now calling for Bitcoin to be included, and this is where I think we're going to go. And this is why it's important when you're looking at the price of Bitcoin and you're looking at people like Peter Schiff telling you to sell your Bitcoin and buy gold. Gold doesn't fulfill the same end goal as Bitcoin. Bitcoin has 21 million Bitcoins. Gold can continue to be dug out of the ground every year, maybe for the next 100 years. Maybe they'll find gold on the moon or on an asteroid on Mars. Maybe they will find more gold than is already in production. So the key here is Bitcoin has a finite, hard-coded written supply. So if you are a sovereign state and you see the political issues in China and Russia and America going on, and you see conflict, and you see change in government policy, and you see a more left-wing approach, or whatever you want to call it, a more right-wing approach in certain places, you want to hold something, you need to hold something that is politically uncensorable. And that's not Ethereum, it's not Solana, it's not Cardano, it's Bitcoin. I've just shown you what is happening in the macro environment. And as I've said, you're going to see people talking about this in panic mode, getting food for, they're going to build themselves a shed and fill it full of food and supplies because the world's going to come to an end. No, things decline gradually and then all at once. The same way of adoption, it's adopted slowly and then all at once. We are probably 10, 15 years away from the dollar losing its status as the world reserve currency. It's not going to happen tomorrow. Whatever anybody tells you, it's not going to happen this side of 2035, 2040. It's just not going to happen. But in the long run, you need something which cannot be swayed by politics. And the only thing is either having a bag of gold, like a troll under your bed, a bag of gold, or Bitcoin, an asset that is a store of value that avoids debasement, and debasement is the key. How has America tried to get out of this problem? By printing money. Printing money is invisible tax on the money in your pocket, because even though you have €100 or $100 in your pocket, in 2 years' time, they will print enough money to make that $100 worth $90 or $80. And you might think, but I've still got that $100 in my pocket. Yes. And if you go to the shop today and you buy $100 worth of groceries, and you go in 2 years' time to buy $100 worth of groceries, the amount of food you can buy for that $100 will be less in 2 years' time than it is today. Inflation is the biggest scam in the universe. If we didn't have inflation, there would be no need for wage rises. Prices wouldn't change. If you go back and look at American prices of goods, when they were on the gold standard, a tin of soup barely changed in price over 20 years. And they came off the gold standard and they debased your money and they taxed you silently and invisibly. And now you have less money. Even though you have more money, you have less money because it's worth less than it was. Bitcoin is the solution. I sound like a Bitcoin maxi, I know, but I'm not laboring the point of America is bad or China is bad. I'm laboring the point that you need to make a decision, whichever country you're in, whether it be in Africa or Asia or Europe or America, you need to make a decision to hold an asset that will be worth the same or more in 5 years' time than it is today. Property is a perfect example. The house I'm in now, I bought it 20 years ago. It's now gone up 300% in value. In that time, that's 15% a year. The stock market has gone up over that period of time. They do hold some value against the money in your pocket. But Bitcoin, at this moment in time, is the only asset I can see that you can hold that will hold it indefinitely. Because the place where you live, they could build a motorway through it and devalue the property that you live in. They can put up the taxes on your property, which makes them harder to sell and harder to buy, which drops the price. So even property, it doesn't fall out of the scope of politics. Now, Switzerland has suggested that Bitcoin should be adopted and added into its reserve via a constitutional referendum, citing the enhancement of Switzerland's sovereignty and neutrality amid rising global instability. Again, global instability. We're in a period which most of you probably don't know about or don't need to know about. We're in a period where there's lots of inflection points going on. And that inflection point is we have the potential of China going into Taiwan in the next 2 years. That's a black swan, a big black swan. We hopefully have the resolution of Eastern Europe. That's a white swan. But there's so much political tension going on at the minute that I don't know if what's going on is going to be repaired. I don't think Russia can ever trust Europe again. I don't think Europe should be so reliant on Russian gas, so there needs to be a change in energy in Europe. In America, they're going to have political change in the next 12 months. So from Switzerland's point of view, remember Switzerland is a neutral country and has been during various wars. I'm trying to get this on the screen so you can actually see it. So, where we go. So they want, these documents are stated for submission to the State Chancellery, making the commencement for the referendum process. The campaign must gather 100,000 signatures from Swiss citizens within an 18-month window to meet the referendum's criteria. Now, again, there are several nations that hold Bitcoin. There are some nations that have it as a method of payment. El Salvador, for example. Expect 10 to 20 countries in the near future to accept Bitcoin as a method of payment or a currency, an acceptable currency in their country. So expect more of that. Once countries realize that Bitcoin holds its value against inflation, there is no reason why any country shouldn't be holding Bitcoin. A Bitcoin is digital. I don't want to call it digital gold, and I don't want to call it digital property. It's a digital store of value held together by energy of the network of the miners which are distributed around the world. Bitcoin should be, even if it's 1 or 2% on the banks, on the national bank's reserves, that's how it should be, a minimum. Now, if that was the case, then Bitcoin should have an additional, or it should be $32.9 billion, but the costs of these is going up. So you are starting to see sovereign states FOMO into Bitcoin. So I know we like talking about meme coins. I know we like talking about the next big project. I know we like to talk about, where's Solana going to be? Where's Ethereum going to be? But sometimes you have to take a step back. A little bit like Vitalik did the other day when he was talking about freedom and privacy. I'm not going down that route. I'm talking about self-sovereignty and holding assets which nobody can take off you. If you have a ledger or a Trezor and you hold 1 Bitcoin on that ledger or that Trezor, nothing in the world can separate you other than by physical force from your money. If you look at your bank account, can your government go into your bank account and seize assets or seize your account or freeze your account? Yes, they can. Can you be taxed into oblivion? Yes, you can. So everything to do with fiat is controlled by the government. And wherever you are in the world, you might have a very good government, local government where you are, but holding a small amount of Bitcoin in your portfolio, a small amount of your wealth in Bitcoin should be, I'm not going to say the word mandatory because it's not financial advice, but it should be something that you should have to do. You should have to do it, not just maybe for yourself, but for your family and also for your kids, for their education, whatever it might be. That is probably going to be as much as I can talk about it because I don't want to go on in too much depth. Good morning, Daniel. Good morning, Diablisky. Welcome to the show. And Kishan, really good news for Bitcoin. It is good news for Bitcoin. Now, we're going to have a little look at the Bitcoin chart. We don't want to spend too long on it. We saw what we thought was the head and shoulders and the bounce. And if you look here, and again, I've not changed this chart since yesterday, as you can probably tell. The line that we had in the sand was 66,200. And I put a lovely circle around it because I am some kind of soothsayer. And what have we done? We've come up, we've gone above the line, and we've just bounced off it. Now, that would indicate to me, if you look at previous examples, this line is where we've had some price action very recently. The RSI is fairly low on the day, so we have plenty of movement up. We have a nice volume area above us to move into. We have good support here. I don't know whether we're going to fall back down, but 60,000 60,666. 60,666 seems to have been our bounce point, which is that line there. Again, I drew this a long time ago. Now, I did say it was the mark of the beast, but maybe it's the mark of the bounce, and maybe that's what we called it. Now, we're back up above this line. I said 66.2. If we hold 66.2, and I'm not saying we're going to, if we hold 66.2, then we are looking upwards. And I know we're at 66.265 right now, and we could lose it, I know, but we've done what I thought we were going to do in this period. So the next target for me would be maybe here, which is this red line, which is 68.3. That would be my next target. There's no real indications of us moving down unless there's more inflation data coming out today or tomorrow. I don't know which day it is. And that could show us that inflation is cooling off. And if that's the case, then we could be moving up. But again, we've spent so long talking about Bitcoin. We have an awful lot more to talk about. But I wanted to try and explain where we were in the world with Bitcoin, its status as a world reserve currency. Remember, the world reserve currency is not a single asset. That's the top world reserve currency. Your national bank will hold currencies in yen, in pounds, in Swiss francs, in euros, but it's the number one. America is the number one reserve currency. And if it loses that spot to China, it's probably not going to fall out of the top three or the top two anyway. It would be the yen and then the dollar. And maybe countries are going to hedge the bets and hold in both. So crypto analysts offer their favorite market plays after the Bitcoin halving. Now, this is always good to read because most of the time I disagree with about 60% of their comments. So they are three, look at those, very trustworthy individuals. Rob Nelson, I don't know what he's called, man with a nice goatee and man with a nice cap. They have been talking about what they would be holding after the halving. So Alex Mascioli is the founder of Trade the Chain, and John Najarian of Market Rebellion provided in-depth analysis of various digital assets and their potential movements. We've seen a flurry of activity in the Solana ecosystem as of late, he said. When the FTX claimed bankruptcy, we saw Solana go down to $8. That wasn't the trade that we missed. Brogan was buying Solana at $12, so we missed the $8, but we had buy orders at 6 and 8, but we were down there buying Solana at that point. It has come back, indeed. Expanding on the topic, he mentioned the Base. Now, Base, I think, as a token, is going to do well. Now, this word here, which I can't say out loud, they're going to have their earnings report. I think it's this week. And I think that stock is going to go through the roof because their earnings report is going to show that they've made more money than what people have thought they were going to make. So expect the earnings report of this to be substantial. He also points out the lack of excitement around other blockchains like Cardano and Avalanche, suggesting that investors' focus might be shifting towards more active ecosystems. Now, I don't use the word active, I use the word sexy. And I use the word sexy for one very good reason. If you see a Lambo driving down the street, a beautiful purple pearlescent Lambo driving down the street, you'll look at that and you'll go, that's a sexy car. And then somebody will drive maybe a slightly more expensive Rolls Royce down the street. Not as sexy looking, still got four wheels, still takes you from A to B, more expensive. You won't look at it as much as you look at the Lambo. So your eye is drawn to sexiness in blockchain. And Cardano and Avalanche are not sexy. Chainlink, ICP, is not sexy. But when people started to recycle paper and turned it into toilet paper 30 years ago, that was possibly the least sexiest thing that's ever lived. Storage units, plastic wrapping for food, cater packs, whatever it might be, IKEA, they are not sexy. But guess what? They make bundles of cash. Sexy does not necessarily mean profit. Microsoft makes bundles of cash. Apple is sexy, and yes, Apple makes the Apple phone and the iMac, and it is sexy, yes. But all of those other companies you've never even heard of that make things that you use in your everyday life have made billionaires out of people. And the problem is in crypto, and this is highlighting it perfectly, is people follow the sexy. People follow Cardano because of why? They don't. People follow Avalanche because of what? They don't. Why do people follow Solana? It has meme coins. It has mobile phones. It has Anatoly appearing on TV every 5 minutes. It has DeFi. It has possibly a connection to Bitcoin via Zeus. It has everything. It has Jupiter, right? It is sexy, and you'd be a fool not to hold Solana or some Solana coins. But you need to look at everything else along the way. That's why I'm forever trying to go on about projects that are not in the spotlight. And Tariq was quite right to point out Atom, which is the coin of Cosmos, because that's never in the spotlight. But when I show you in a minute what Cosmos does, it's going to blow your socks off, because Cosmos for me is one of the top 10 projects in crypto, bar none. But you have to also walk with the crowd, and the crowd is going towards Solana. Let's move down. We can't really talk about that. Okay, well, let's move on. We've got plenty of time, I think. We've got... Oh, no, we don't have plenty of time at all. We've got a lot to get through. Let me crack on then. So, the long and short of it is everybody is now picking Solana. And because everybody's now picking Solana, it's going to do well. And that's the thing. I cannot avoid Solana. We're back at $153. I told you 3 or 4 days ago, $136, $135 Solana, which was an absolute bargain. We are now up 10% since I said it was a bargain. Now, we've not changed these charts, remember. We've not changed them at all. So what's on the screen is what you see from one stream to the next on Solana. We have this range here, and I fully expect us to go back into that range very soon. And that range is 174 to 200. That's the range that I think Solana is going to be in. We've come up. We've not quite done what Bitcoin has done, if you know what I mean. We've not quite done it, but we did come down. As I said yesterday about Bitcoin not doing it, we touched the bull market support band. Ethereum has touched the bull market support band, and guess what? It's bounced. So where's the trajectory going to take us? Potentially we're going to retest 174. We could very well get rejected at 174, but that's the direction it's going in. The RSI is looking nice. The price action is looking nice. The markets seem to be calm. The post-halving crash that everybody's been expecting hasn't happened yet. Remember, bottom right-hand corner, I've got a $74,000 target. If we're going to crash, I think we are going to bounce off 70,000 and crash, or 74,000 and crash. And if we do come down, which we very likely will, we will come down to $55,000, $56,000 on Bitcoin. If that happens in 3 or 4 weeks' time, what could happen with Solana is Solana could do this kind of move and then crash, and then we could be back at 140. So we don't know. We don't have a crystal ball. I'm just giving you a scenario that Solana will carry on moving up, probably get a little bounce off there, come down, break up, hold a support, get back up towards 200 in the middle of May, and guess what? Bitcoin corrects, has its post-halving correct, comes down 20%. What would happen to Solana? Solana would come down to 150. 150 from 200 is about 25%. So that is a possibility. Now, I'm not saying don't buy Solana. I'm saying anything under $200 is a good price for you to DCA into Solana. It is going to be one of the top chains, whether you like it or not, whether you like the fact it crashes or not. it is going to be a top chain. I showed you the transactions on it yesterday. It's outperforming everything. So what, you'd be a fool not to hold some Solana. The same way you'd be a fool not to hold Bitcoin. In my opinion, of course, not financial advice. And if you're a degen and you've gone 100% into meme coins, good luck to you, because you're either going to be incredibly rich or you're going to be broke. And I don't like those odds. So for me, expect 174 to be the next target for Solana. And if Bitcoin doesn't correct, I think we're going to get there sooner rather than later. We've already moved up $20 in the last few days. Now, before we get on to Cosmos, very quickly then, SafeMoon CEO John Caroni claims he's innocent of multi-million crypto fraud scheme. For those of you that don't know, they had all kinds of scams going on SafeMoon. The contracts had exploits in them. They also, not saying that John did this, but somebody, they also told people that SafeMoon was locked in a treasury, so it was locked away. And unbeknownst to everybody else, they were selling their own SafeMoon from the treasury behind the backs of their holders. They were allegedly scamming everybody. And now he's claiming innocence. Okay, so SafeMoon CEO John Caroni took to X on April the 21st to defend his innocence after being charged over a multi-million-dollar, basically a scam. I'll keep this post brief and to the point. I'm innocent. I didn't commit fraud. Looking forward to this case progressing. I won't be broken. I won't be bullied. And there he is. I don't know whether, if I was being accused of securities and fraud, I would be posting South Park memes. But there we go, each to their own. So in spite of his hopes, the case against him will move forward. The former CEO has encountered some legal trouble. So the attorneys that were representing him have withdrawn their counsel. That's not a good sign. I don't believe it's lack of funds. I would suggest more that they know they're onto a really bad case with that one. They allege that the directors misappropriated customer funds by stealing the money from locked liquidity pools. This is what I was mentioning before, in which they assured customers assets would be safeguarded against typical rug pull schemes. Now, this was a fairly big rug pull. There were lots of crypto influencers talking about how nice SafeMoon was. And in fact, I will defend BitBoy Crypto on this. He was one of the only ones who said this was a scam. He called them out on the channel. And he got berated for that, but he called them out, and he was right. So SafeMoon executives grew their company value to $8 billion. Instead of rewarding their clients as promised, their greed led them to spend millions of dollars on their own lavish desires. Today, no luxury vehicles or sprawling real estate can protect them from the consequences of such crimes. Despite being on a $3 million bail, it is currently unclear whether Caroni is due back in court. I think they are as guilty as charged. No, there is no smoke without fire. There is a lot of people involved with that project, and they damaged the community. They didn't damage crypto so much. Oh, you're joking. The article has disappeared that I was going to read you about Atom. Let's try it one more time. No, it is gone. Well, there we go. We're running short of time anyway, so I'll just move on. We're going to go and have a quick look at Atom and Cosmos. Now, Cosmos. Where do we start with Cosmos? I did say at the start that this is a huge undertaking trying to explain this. I'm not going to make a video about it because there's thousands of videos made about Cosmos. What I will tell you is that Cosmos has built an ecosystem and apps that you will already have heard of and you didn't know were associated with Cosmos. There are blockchains connected to Cosmos that you will have heard of. It's, again, going back to the sexiness, it's not sexy. It's built for developers to build on. Now, I'm trying to work out where we should start. Let's have a quick look at the interchain stack then. Now, these are the projects which are connected to Cosmos. Celestia, we've covered that before. DYDX, which was the decentralized exchange built by the guy that used to work for one of the centralized exchanges that I can't mention the name of. Osmosis. Stride, many of you will have heard of. Now, these are the applications that run on the interchain. The interchain it connects all of these blockchains together. Luna, for example, is one of them. Now, some of these projects down here, Akash, we've just been talking about, AIOZ, IO's network. I've made a video about them. Who else will you have heard of? Anchor, you've heard of them. You've heard of Band Protocol. The smart chains are connected. Blazelle is connected. They're all the names of all the projects you will have ever heard of and others that you haven't heard of. I think the problem is with it's built out to such a scale and such a development of projects and apps and blockchains and layer ones that you simply cannot describe it in one word. That's the issue. It has an SDK. This allows you to build your own blockchain. It has the IBC protocol that connects these blockchains together. So if you have your blockchain and you build it on Cosmos, you can interact with other blockchains that are also built on Cosmos. It is vast. Absolutely vast. Now, interchain security. We talk a lot about Chainlink has its CCIP, which kind of creates these secure connections which are unhackable and don't have vulnerabilities in. Cosmos has its own. And by having its own, when you build on it, you don't just build a blockchain. You build a blockchain that's connected to not just every other blockchain, but all of these apps that I've just shown you down here. Okay, it really is. It's a Cosmos. It's probably the most appropriate word for it. Now, what is the problem with the Cosmos ecosystem? What's the problem with all of this? In my opinion, very simply, because it allows so many blockchains to be built using it, they all become much of a muchness. So I say to you, can you describe Solana in one sentence? I would say it is a blockchain built for retail. High transactions, low fees. That would be my description of Solana. If you said to me, what's Ethereum, what's Bitcoin, I can tell you specifically what each of those have in terms of a unique selling point. The blockchains built on Cosmos, there are so many of them. It's easy. You go in here, you go to developers, you build your blockchain, you build it out, you get your backing, you get your investment from your VCs, you build a blockchain. What makes your blockchain built on Cosmos any different to any other blockchain built on Cosmos? What is your unique selling point? Now, in specific examples, there are blockchains built that have unique selling points. But when you're talking about 20 or 30 interoperable blockchains, why have them? Why not merge them all into one? Why not have one Cosmos blockchain? That's my issue. My issue is that by allowing so many blockchains to coexist and share so many apps, they're all pretty much the same thing. So why would you invest in one blockchain over another? You wouldn't. What you would do is use what you would do is hold Atom, which is the token of the Cosmos. So everything that happens on the Cosmos ecosystem, the fees generated hold the value and increase the value of the Atom token. And that comes back, unfortunately, to sexiness. It's not a sexy token. It's a blockchain builder. You're holding the token of a blockchain builder. And a 200, 300 dApps built on it, but it doesn't have the sex appeal to retail. So that's the downside of it. The upside is it's vast. It holds all of this wide and varied variety of apps and dApps and blockchains. The downside is that it loses a sense of what it is, not in terms of Cosmos, but in terms of the individual blockchains built on it. That's as fast as I can review Cosmos without going into too much depth, because this is supposed to be a quick review. Now, the price. Tariq pointed out a very interesting point. He said this was up here and now it's down here. Now, that might sound really obvious to you, but he made a very good point. And that is the bull market support band. Cosmos is trapped down here. What happens in October? Like every other coin, it breaks. What does it do? It bounces off the bull market support band. It comes up to a level of resistance at $12.70. What does it do then? It comes down. It bounces back off the bull market support band. We're looking good. It breaks through this same level. It goes one level higher. Where are we? We are now up at $14.50. $14.50. Look at where we are. Then we have the correction in the market. We come down. We don't hold it. We do hold this one. We've come down here. We have a short-term bounce back up to here. And what do? We don't really hold this. We don't hold this. We don't hold this. Now, that's probably the worst head and shoulders I've ever drawn, but it doesn't matter. The point of the matter is, it's come down here. When we talk about coins to buy, we talk about the hit zone, which is this area here. What is a good price to buy a token at? I've done this fib. I've not gone back to the start. I think I've only gone back to August last year. So I've only gone back a year, roughly. Not gone back to the start. Oops, hang on. So, is Atom a good buy at this price? Absolutely yes. What would I do? I wouldn't buy Atom until it breaks back above here, which is its support band. Now, that sounds crazy. Don't buy it for another 15% move up. The reason I personally wouldn't buy it is that if we come up and we get rejected at the bull market support band, we are likely to do that before moving back up. So you could pick it up potentially at $6 to $7. In my opinion, this is a $10, $12, $14, $20 coin being sold at $8.74. So it is cheap. It is something to look at, but this isn't enough of a move back up for me. I mean, this drop here was $10.89 to $7. It lost 50%, 40%, whatever, in a period of 3 days. That's a serious move down because it didn't hold its bull market support band. And where did it come down to? Well, as always, what does price try and find? Price tries to find previous price action. And there you have it. So it came down to here, where it had been in September and October, and it bounced off there. So where could it move up to? The next move up is, believe it or not, exactly on this fib level, 10.13, where the bull market support band is. If it breaks $10, it's likely to move back up somewhere, for me, towards $12.70. If you're a DJ like Tariq, you probably start accumulating now. That's what I would do, not financial advice. DCA in, if you want to buy this coin, dollar cost average in, and this is cheap. This is really cheap. Look at where it's come down from, $14.50. It's now $8.70. It's almost half price, and it's done that move in a month and a half. So I've just shown you this massive ecosystem of dApps, of layer ones, of the ability to build your own blockchain. I've shown you all of that and have shown you that the price action has dropped 50%. For what reason? Because it followed the market. So this is an emotional sell-off. This is not a fundamental problem with Atom. It's not a fundamental problem with the Cosmos ecosystem. This is simply because this has followed the market. So if it follows the market down, it will follow the market up. And again, all of this is dependent on Bitcoin. If Bitcoin goes to $70,000, expect to see some kind of price action like that. That's what could happen. And I'll leave that there. So the next time Tariq pings me about Atom, that's what I'm going to show him. And that's what I'm going to say to him. So, yes, I had a few sound issues. I don't know what happened. Every once in a while, the stream just cuts out. Now, the last part of the show, we've nearly done it. We've nearly done it. We're a little bit over. We've nearly done it. Now, haven't looked at this for a while. So if you're new here, good morning, Solo Sky. If you're new here, you've never seen this before. If you are a regular, you will recognize this. Now, we built a $15,000 to $1 million portfolio, and we built it in January 2023, so the beginning of last year. Now, the reason we did this was we wanted to put together a conservative portfolio, and a conservative portfolio in January 2023 did not involve Solana. So that's the first elephant in the room. You're welcome, Tariq. Thank you for the heads up. You're welcome, Tariq. Now, personally, if I was you, and I know what you're like, this is a good price to get Atom at. And I'm just going to say that. It's not financial advice. You know I can't give financial advice. But that $8 mark, $9 mark is crazy for Atom. Look at what it does. It powers the ecosystem. Anyway, so there's no Solana in here. And I'm holding this to reach $1 million. I'm not going to expect this to hit $1 million end of next year. That would be ridiculous. That's not what I'm aiming for. This is going to hit $1 million probably over 3 bull runs, because I want to demonstrate that this can be done and be conservative and not take too many risks. And I'm putting it out there, so if it doesn't work, you can see it doesn't work. But you can see the process that I went through. And I am more than happy to send anybody who wants this portfolio a copy of it. It's still not too late to copy it. It's a standard portfolio. I've based it on some very simple metrics, and I've also built it on a very simple breakdown. So this is the portfolio. We've got Bitcoin and Ethereum, number 1 and number 2. And what we did with these two, in fact, you can't see the holdings. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to try and zoom out so you can see. I don't know if that's going to fit. Well, give me 1 second. I need the stream is on about a 10-second lag, so any change I make, you can't see. You can't see for a while. I still don't think it's going to fit. It's going to have to be even smaller. Okay, I can't make it too much smaller. So basically, Bitcoin and Ethereum, we bought the same amount of each. We bought, I think it was it 5,000? 4,000. So we bought $4,000 of Bitcoin and $4,000 of Ethereum. As it stands, Bitcoin is now at 13,300. So it's gone up an awful lot. Ethereum is at 8,700. They were the top 2 coins that we put into this. Remember, this isn't a portfolio based on dividing the amount of money by 8. No, we put more money into Bitcoin and Ethereum, which was about 60%, I think. Something like that. We then took another 20% and put that into Cardano, XRP, and I believe... No, we put it into Cardano and XRP, that's it. So they were the next 2. Again, solid layer ones. XRP, of course, has had an issue. Cardano is slow, as we know. ICP, Chainlink, Algorand, and Polygon were given, I believe, about 2.5% maybe of the portfolio each, 7.5%, something like that. I can give you the actual breakdown later on. But you'll also, when you can't see, and I can't make it any smaller for you to see, the performance. So Bitcoin, since January, Bitcoin is up 195%. Ethereum is up 92%. Cardano 50%. XRP 33%. ICP is up 163%. Chainlink is up 124%. Then we have two losers, which is Algorand and Polygon, which is Matic. Now, Polygon, I think I would have bought at $1. Algorand, I think I bought about 24 cents, something like that. They're both down. Now, the one thing to understand about a portfolio is that you are spreading your risk. You are diversifying out of one coin. And the reason you do that is because sometimes you're going to be right, sometimes you're going to be wrong, and other times the timings of coins are different. ICP, towards the end of last year, I was in a loss. I was down about $200. I think it was a $750 allocation, and we were down. Maybe it was worth about $450. ICP today is worth $2,000, and it has gone up $1,230. All of these coins can change on the turn of a coin. Algorand and Polygon. Polygon is the biggest layer 2 on Ethereum. It is down 26% in a year and a bit. It makes no sense, but it will have its time. Algorand has signed a deal with the World Economic Forum. It will have its time. It's great technology. Chainlink and everything else is up between 35% and 200% in a year. In a year. You can't get that with any bank, any building society, any bond. You can get it in stocks, of course. But the issue is that some of these coins are going to be sold at different times. And that's the key. So Gianni just made a very good point. Solo Sky made a very good point in chat. Please find an appropriate time to educate on dollar cost averaging in and out. And that's probably what we will try and do maybe a week on Wednesday. So what I mean by dollar cost averages in, if you have $1,000 and you want to buy Bitcoin, you buy $100 of Bitcoin every week for 2.5 months. And that's you dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin. Now, if Bitcoin drops 20%, you're still buying it at 57,000, 55,000. If it goes up to 70 and 72,000 afterwards, you're buying at 70 and 72,000. But the average price of your 10 transactions is probably going to be somewhere in the region of about $65,000, $66,000 where we are now. And you might say, why don't you just buy it all today? You don't buy it all today because you don't know what the price is going to be next week or next month or in June. We could have the correction. So dollar cost averaging gives you, look at Michael Saylor and look at MicroStrategy. They're the greatest DCAers that have ever lived. Their average price of Bitcoin is what, $38,000? They've been buying it for 2 years. If you start now and you get an average price of $70,000 for your Bitcoin and Bitcoin goes to $210,000, do you really care the price you bought it at? No, but you still should do it correctly. And conversely, when we go to sell this portfolio, because we're not going to hold this portfolio and never sell it, we're going to sell it at the end of each bull run, or as close to each bull run as we're going to get. And this is what I'm talking about timing. ICP could run earlier than Chainlink. So what you do is you have to have a plan to sell. What is your price that you're going to sell each of these tokens at? And that is something that you have to decide. Now, what I will be using when we do our show is this website on CoinGoLive. It's the all-time high cryptocurrency price list. I'm going to use a combination of this and a combination of a 4x. I think the market will do a 4x from here for argument's sake. So that would mean that there's a $250,000 Bitcoin. So when we get, and hopefully we do, towards the end of the summer, we're going to know precisely where we think we're going to get to. That's an oxymoron, precisely where we think, but you know what I mean. We're going to have a better idea next summer than we have now. And if we are at 150,000, 160,000 next summer, I will start to dollar cost average out of Bitcoin. But every coin, so as you can see down here, this shows you the all-time high price. This shows you the percentage to the all-time high. So we're 11% off the all-time high of Bitcoin, but we're 53% off the all-time high of ETH. Now, the question I'll pose to you is, if we know roughly that Bitcoin is going to go to $200,000, $250,000, we know when we can start to dollar cost average. Ethereum might have its ETF approved next April. So is it wise to decide what the price we're going to sell ETH for now, before we've had the ETF? No, it doesn't. So everything has to stay fluid, but you still need the plan. So you make a plan, and the plan, you stick to it until something changes. That is the key. The key is to have an idea what you're going to do. It doesn't mean you write in a stone. You don't etch in stone. You don't tattoo your plan onto your arm today. You make a rough plan and you use something like this. You use price prediction models. So if you know that XRP in the previous bull run got to $3.40, would you conservatively say that $5 is a good price for XRP in the next bull run? That'd be 50% above its all-time high. I don't think that's unachievable. If you look at Solana, we only hit $260. We're at $154 now. If you 4x that $259, you get to $1,000, which is where I think we could go to. So each coin has its own rough price target. Now, when you know that, you can work back. This is what I'm saying about timing. If Solana gets to $900 in April, or May, or June, whatever it might be, and your price target is $1,000 for Solana, it doesn't matter what the price goes to, does it? Because you can start to sell 10% a week or 5% a week. You can start to take small amounts out of the market, and that's what dollar cost averaging does. It allows you to take 5% out. If I told you that Grayscale Trust, after all of its selling of all of its Bitcoin over the last 3 months, if I told you they still had the same assets under management than they had in January, you'd think I was crazy, because they've sold $6, $7, $8 billion worth of Bitcoin, but the price has gone up, so they still have the same amount of money. If you sold 10% of your Solana next Friday and the price went up 15% between next Friday and the Friday after, you'd have more Solana. And sorry, you'd have more dollar value of Solana. So dollar cost averaging just takes profit off the table, and that's the point. The entire point of it is that you are not holding everything at the end of the bull run. You will have some Bitcoin and Ethereum left in your bags, yes, but you should have 70 or 80% of your money out. And if it goes really well and you think, you know what, we're at $300,000 for Bitcoin, I'm selling it all, fine, sell it all. That's entirely up to you, it's your opinion. But you need a plan. And like Gianni said, and like Solo Sky said, we will try and do a show where we explain how you can dollar cost average out, and we will live stream it maybe on a Wednesday night and spend an hour. It won't be a sexy stream, but you know what? It's sometimes education isn't sexy. We don't always talk about the birds and the bees. So that is it. It's 12:15. You know what? We haven't done bad. for an hour and 15 minutes, in all honesty. I think we've done okay. So we ran a poll. The poll was, are we going to go up or down this week? 67% have said up and 33% of you are Debbie Downers, which is not very nice. So final thoughts. You're going to hear a lot of talk over the next 6 months about the US dollar losing its status as the world reserve currency. They will try and panic you. They will try and worry you. They will try and make you think like the world is coming to an end, and it isn't. These things take time and they can be reversed. If America becomes a crypto powerhouse in the next 4 years, then the politics changes, Robert Kennedy wins, Trump wins, whatever it might be, then we should see more stability in America, and a stable America, a stable China, and a stable Russia is what we want. And then it will probably hold on to its position as the world reserve currency. It's still got a fairly sizable lead. And as I said, it's going to take 20 years, 15 years for it to really start to lose its position. Remember, 58% from 67% took 10 years. To drop below 50% might take another 5 or 10 years. It's not the end of the world. The media are great at clickbait, but unfortunately clickbait is based on fear, uncertainty and doubt. And just don't let the news scare you. That's the key. Make your own opinions in your head of what's going to happen, whether it be in crypto or whether it be in the universe. Just don't let anything faze you. With all that being said, I am finished. I am going to go and drink some coffee now. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and watching. You've been great. It's been a good show. I've managed to get through everything I want to talk about, which I am very happy about. Remember, the important things are smash the like button. We did cross 120,000 fans yesterday. We're at 120,556. So if you're not subscribed to us, what are you doing? Press the subscribe, the follow button, all those good things. I'm going to make a video today. Let me tell you what I'm making a video about today. I am going to make a video about a project called Unrevealed XYZ. I'm going to make a video about that, and I might make a Gecko update video. Gecko is a meme coin on Solana. I might do. I don't know yet. That's it. Tomorrow is Wednesday. I'll be streaming at 11 again. Brogan will hopefully be doing an 8 or 9 o'clock trading show tomorrow night. So this week, there should be 9 live streams and possibly 10 videos. So big thank you to you all. Big thank you to the OGs. Remember, you can become an OG. It doesn't cost an awful lot and it helps support the channel. But until tomorrow, take care, everybody. Thanks for the support and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.